Right, we're going to now do quite a different sky to the ones we've been doing, and it's going to be a very dramatic stormy sky with the dark colour of the sky coming right down to the horizon, similar in a way to the very first sky we did with the flat wash. But what I want to create here, and I've drawn a little sketch of a castle on a hillside, I want to create that sort of light that happens when you've got an impending storm, where you've got bright sunlight on the landscape, but the sky is all sorts of threatening colours. So what we're going to do is to paint the sky first and then do this as if it was a bright sunny day and see the effect that we get. Now, just a little tip for when you're painting skies around awkward shapes, as in this case around the turrets of the castle, or it could be the roofs of building or trees or whatever. If you struggle to paint around that and you worry that the paint's going to run down into areas you want to keep light, just turn the picture upside down like that. And you'll find that when you come to paint, because the paint's running away from your buildings or the areas you want to reserve, then there's no problem. And if you remember that skies are essentially a series of abstract shapes, so if you paint a cloud or some area in slightly the wrong place because it's upside down, then it doesn't really matter. Right, here's the four colours we're going to use. First of all, we've got Payne's Grey, which is going to give us a very dark shadow area. This is Phthalo Blue, which, as you can see, is a little bit greener as a blue than the ultramarine we've been using so far. This is Phthalo Blue with a little bit of burnt umber mixed in with this, and that's going to give us another variation for cloud shadows. Here's the burnt umber itself, a reddy sort of brown, and here's Lemon Yellow, which I'm going to use quite a bit of on the hillsides to give that sort of sunlit feeling. Oh yeah, and I'll be using the 1-inch brush for this exercise. And again, it proves the point that even with a large 1-inch brush, we can still get in and do all the details in and around the castle and indeed in the sky. Right, I'm going into this reasonably strong, but nevertheless still fairly fluid wash of the Phthalo Blue and the burnt umber that's mixed together. And I'm going to very quickly paint over the sky. I'm not hanging around because I don't want this wash, as fluid as it is, to start drying. If you're not sure, incidentally, and you're worried that you might going to create tide marks further along in the sky, then just go over it with some clean water. I've done slightly blue water so you can see what I'm doing here, but what it means is that the paint will stay moist. In fact, we'll go over pretty well the whole sky like that. You can see I'm not worried about painting stripes or getting any particular direction, but it does allow me, and you of course, to take a little more time over your painting. It just means, as I said before, that when you come to put your full strength colour in, you're going to have to do it somewhat darker than you first intended to compensate for that water that's already in the on the paper. Oh, there's a nice little bit of burnt umber that's come in, almost neat burnt umber. That's a nice happy accident. Oh, that's fine, I'm quite happy with that. Oh yes, that's fine for this. In other circumstances you might be annoyed, so always make sure that you've got your paint mixed thoroughly, otherwise that will happen. Now already you can see we've got quite a strong dark sky. I'm going to slosh some really strong Payne's Grey into this, and you can see how thick I'm putting. Let's show you how thick I'm putting the Payne's Grey. There's the actual little dollop of Payne's Grey I've got, and you can see it's almost neat Payne's Grey that I'm putting in, and I need to do that, otherwise the water is going to, if it's too watery, it'll push the pigment all over the sky and start to create cauliflowers. And I'm not worried about how dark that is, because Payne's Grey actually dries very, very light. Right, I'm going to put some neat Phthalo Blue in this corner, See what that is. You notice because the whole sky area is now damp, as I'm putting these different colours in, it doesn't really make much difference because I'm not getting any hard edges. I haven't got hard edges to worry about. Right, what I'm going to do is to just take off the excess paint that's at this end, because it means there's not going to be as much paint running down the page when we turn it the right way round, like that. Okay, now there's a really threatening dark sky. Now what I'm going to do now is not so much take clouds out, because the surface is still too wet and the water is just running back in, but it will lighten up some of these areas, just as I'd hoped, like that, into the edges of billowing clouds. I don't want it absolutely dead white, but just enough to look threatening, as I think it is. Quite a threatening sky. I think we'll have a little bit more fairly strong burnt umber in, just to heading towards the castle, just to take the eye down to the castle. Don't want it too strong, but and it'll all blend together anyway in a rather nice way. See, it's starting to dry off here and there, so that only adds to the drama of the event. You can see these areas that I've taken out have already started to fill in, so you might have to do this more than once. Okay, we'll leave it at that and start to dry it off. Right, now remember how black and dark that Payne's grey was when it first went on, and look how light it's dried now. So it just does prove the point, and again with the phthalo blue, that was quite strong when it went on. So there we are, we've got a very threatening dark solid sky. So now to complete the overall effect and to enhance the drama of the sky, and this is where you're using a good example where you're using a contrast to enhance something. Now by painting the castle quite bright and quite light and the surrounding area cast in sunlight, it's going to provide a really dramatic contrast to this very threatening sky, and it's going to enhance the effect that we're trying to create. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that now. I'm quite pleased with the way that's turned out, and in particular I'm pleased that, as I predicted, the bright sunlit areas on the castle front and on the hillsides have actually only served to intensify the drama that we've created into the sky. And do you see how these light cloud effects have suddenly emerged? I didn't actually consciously create them. That's the way the watercolours dried back, and very often watercolour does this for you. It's almost better at painting than you are sometimes. So that's what you call a lost and found edge. Here is the lost edge where the two adjacent colours are running into each other, and here's the found edge, or the hard edge, where you've got a clear distinction between the light and the dark edges. And that's something that you should always try and strive for when you're painting watercolours, because it does add another little bit of variety as well as putting different colours in.